Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we've got a really fun challenge ahead of us. We are taking a dense, location-heavy, and frankly, massive landing page from a digital marketing agency called First Page Ranks, and we're boiling the whole thing down into a practical, actionable blueprint for your own digital success. Seriously, if you've ever stared at an agency website and just felt totally overwhelmed by the sheer volume of services, the different locations, and the endless marketing jargon, yeah, you are definitely not alone. We're going to cut right through all that noise today. By the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how a full-service social media machine actually ticks, from their core philosophy right down to their exact pricing structure. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this explainer. We're going to organize this into a clean 5-part playbook. 1. The agency philosophy. 2. Core SMM services. 3. Platform-specific marketing. 4. The service pricing breakdown. And finally, 5. Measuring long-term success.
Starting right off with Section 1, the agency philosophy, focusing on real engagement. This is how top agencies actually set themselves apart right out of the gate.
Right there in their FAQ section, First Page Ranks states they focus on, and I quote, real engagement, audience understanding, and measurable growth, rather than vanity metrics. This is absolutely crucial, folks, because it hits on a major pain point we see all the time in marketing, the trap of chasing empty numbers. We've all seen those brand accounts, right? The ones with 100,000 followers but literally zero community interaction? Well, the source material is explicit here. They prioritize meaningful, trackable connection over just looking popular on paper.
In fact, they draw a really hard line here between organic strategy and artificial tactics. The playbook repeatedly emphasizes building long-term trust and putting out conversational, human-centered content. They contrast that directly against the temptation to just chase short-term trends or game the system with artificial engagement tactics for a temporary spike in numbers. The big takeaway? Sustainable growth requires a bedrock of authenticity. You can't just rely on algorithmic tricks.
Moving on to Section 2, Core SMM Services, or what we're calling the Complete Toolkit.
So a true full-service agency does way more than just schedule a couple of posts on a Tuesday and call it a week. To avoid total cognitive overload, let's look at these service buckets. We're talking comprehensive content creation and curation, highly targeted paid advertising, and very active community management. But they're also doing advanced stuff like social listening and sentiment tracking, meaning they're monitoring what people are actually saying about a brand out there in real time. Throw in crisis and reputation management, plus specialized social media SEO to make sure profiles actually show up in searches, and you really start to see the sheer scale of a professional operation. It's the whole shebang. Let's move to and see how this builds into an actual SMM workflow, because how do you even execute all of that? It happens in a strict chronological life cycle. Step 1 is always audience research and platform selection. You've got to know who you're talking to and where they're hanging out. Step 2 is content strategy and calendar planning, basically mapping it all out so nothing is left to chance. Step 3 is the real meat of it. Creative execution and community interaction, making the posts and actually talking to the people. And then Step 4 is analytics, reporting, and refinement. It's not a one-and-done deal. It's a continuous, never-ending loop of testing, learning, and optimizing.
Now for Section 3, platform-specific marketing and adapting the message, because obviously what works on one platform will completely flop on another.
Let's look at how they adapt their approach, starting with YouTube. You know, YouTube isn't just about making a slick video and mashing the upload button. The source text leans heavily into treating YouTube as a literal search engine. The strategy here focuses squarely on SEO, dialing in that thumbnail optimization, keyword research, and organizing playlists. Because the end goal isn't just to get a single view. The goal is to drive search visibility and maximize watch time so the algorithm picks it up and pushes it out to a wider audience.
Now contrast that with Pinterest. This platform is categorized entirely around visual storytelling and saving ideas. The agency's playbook here uses high-quality vertical visuals, eye-catching infographics, and keyword-optimized rich pins. And the why here is super important. It's because Pinterest acts as a massive traffic driver specifically for products and e-commerce sales. People are on there looking for inspiration to buy, so your content has to be highly visual and instantly actionable.
Then we shift gears entirely for LinkedIn, where the tone completely changes to focus on B2B, or business-to-business outreach. The game here is publishing thought leadership articles, running highly targeted lead generation campaigns, and building employee advocacy programs. You are specifically going after the decision makers. It's all about professional networking, which means you need a much more authoritative, industry-focused voice. And wrapping up our rapid-fire platform tour, we have Instagram. This one's all about striking a balance between gorgeous visual aesthetics and those viral short-form video trends. The strategy focuses on driving discoverability and brand loyalty using Reels, interactive stories, shoppable posts so people can buy right then and there, and of course, influencer collaborations. It's fast-paced, it's highly visual, and honestly, it demands a ton of constant creative testing.
All right, moving into Section 4, Service Pricing Breakdown, or the cost of growth. We're getting into the really practical part of the explainer now, looking at actual data and costs from the agency. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing how these big, abstract marketing concepts translate into actual tangible expenses, which are listed here in Indian rupees. You can really see the tier differences based on how intense the service is. Standard social media marketing, so your strategy, your posting, your analytics, that sits at 20,000 rupees a month. But say you want custom video production, concepting, shooting, editing those short reels, well, that jumps right up to 30,000 rupees a month. It gives you a crystal clear sense of how agencies actually value different types of labor and deliverables.
I actually want to zero in on this specific number for a second, 30,000 rupees. This is their starting monthly figure for the social media advertising tier. But there is a massive and somewhat surprising caveat clearly stated in their source material that every business owner absolutely needs to understand. This fee does not include the actual ad spend. No way. You are paying the agency 30,000 rupees just to set up, optimize, and manage the campaigns. The actual money you pay out to Facebook or Google to display those ads, that is a completely separate budget.
And looking closely at their pricing model reveals a super common agency strategy. They heavily incentivize long-term partnerships by offering yearly discounts. For instance, standard marketing is $20,000 a month, which works out to $240,000 a year. But if you buy their yearly package, it's only $200,000. So why do they do this? Because, just like their philosophy stated earlier, sustainable growth takes time. A one-month campaign is rarely going to yield massive results, right? So they build these pricing models specifically to encourage you to stick around for the long haul. And that brings us to Section 5, Measuring Long-Term Success. Because at the end of the day, how do you actually know if all this investment is working?
Well, according to the playbook, First Page Ranks balances all that wild creativity with cold, hard analytics. They're constantly tracking key performance indicators, or KPIs, to refine their campaigns. And notice, they aren't just obsessing over follower counts. They track the engagement rate. Like, are people actually interacting with the stuff you post? They monitor click-throughs to see if the content is successfully driving traffic back to the website. They look at conversion and lead tracking to prove if the social media effort is generating real business. And they even use brand sentiment analysis to gauge how the audience fundamentally feels about the company. It's incredibly thorough. Which brings us to the core takeaway of this entire playbook. After decoding all the services, the different platforms, the pricing models, it all comes back to this one provocative question. Is your brand chasing temporary vanity metrics, or are you building a sustainable digital community? The source material makes such a compelling case that true digital growth isn't a quick sprint to get viral numbers, it's a structured, data-driven marathon that demands a real engagement. Hopefully this explainer gave you a clear inside look at how professional agencies operate and maybe even inspired you to reevaluate your own digital strategy. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you in the next one.